Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Ernest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $eJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to our podcast on all of your social media platforms. Definitely on our YouTube page. Want to get that up. Not only when you subscribe to our YouTube page, not only do you get the Deal to Heal podcast, but you also will get the Girl Dad Discussions podcast under that same channel. So make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as all of your listening platforms for podcasts, because we are there. All right. Thank you so very much. Jumping right in, our next segment, which we call our product of the week. As you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air and do the things that we need to do is by bringing you amazing products for you to buy in order to support us. So our product of the week is my latest ebook. It is called Start Your Podcast Now in Only 3 Steps. Start your podcast now in only 3 steps. And that's very it's very good. Let me just say that I'm releasing that right now, because today is a special day, because we are celebrating 100 episodes. That's right, 100 episodes of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. It's been a long journey, but I'm happy to still be hanging around. Happy to still be on the air and making things happen. Throughout the podcast, we will have guests popping in and out just to say a couple words. So yeah, so we're going to do that. But I just want to, first of all, say thank you to all the listeners who have been there on this journey of my podcast journey from the beginning all the way up until now. So I do have a couple people that's hanging on right now. So I'm going to bring you guys on one by one, I guess. First of all, let me bring on one of my sisters, my sister Lulu. You are now here. I see your eyes get big, but you are live. I think you are muted though, so you might have to unmute
Yes,
yourself.
I
But you are
would.
live. How are you? How are you? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Just like I said, I'm glad to be doing this 100 episode. And so thank you for logging on to be a part of it. Anything you want to say?
Well, the only thing I really want to say is that I'm proud of you for continuing your journey, for sticking with it, for being consistent. It makes me proud to be your sister, and as a black man, it makes me proud, that you're doing something positive, especially giving back, with your mentoring program, as far as your what is it, daughter's fatherless. You know I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's
A
two
fatherless
programs.
daughter.
You sound like you got two of them in one. So it's the Man Up program, which is the program for young men, and then there's also my Friends of Fatherless Daughters, which is talk with fatherless daughters. Yeah. So it's two in one,
Yeah,
but
so
I
both of them,
understand.
both of them. But like I said, I just want to say, I'm proud of you, and I tell you this all the time. It ain't nothing new that I'm saying it, but I'm proud of you that you're able to, sustain and to keep going, especially with everything that's going on. So keep on doing what you're doing. I'm proud that you made to your 100th episode, and Godspeed.
All right, all right. Thank you so very much. I'm gonna let you go. All right, I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so thank you guys. Again, that was my sister. We may have some people jumping in and on and off throughout the episode. So I basically in this episode, hopefully just talk to more people about just coming in to hopefully say congratulations or whatever words that they want to say. But also, I'm going to talk about a little bit about my journey into podcasting and how it got started, and we're going to talk close to the end. We'll talk, even give you a couple tips from me on how to, just maintain in your own podcasting journey. All right. So I see that we have one more other person. We have Coach Tashawn. She's been waiting in the she's been waiting in the background. I'm gonna bring her in real quick.
Hey,
Hey, hey, Coach. Oh, your screen went black, but I can hear you.
did my screen? Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I am driving. I really did not want to miss this opportunity, and so I apologize. But I wanted to say congratulations. I am super proud of you for 100 episodes. That is a major, major, major deal. And I forgot how we met, but I'm so glad we met. It's been great to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to more collaboration with you. And I'm just super proud of you because not too many people can say that they've completed 100 episodes, and not just junk. You have brought in, the real deal. You maintain integrity, and your topics are what we need. So continue the faith. You're a man of God. I appreciate that, and I just appreciate your support as well. And like I told you before, you always have our support on this journey. So congratulations, and many more, 100 more plus. So keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I'm proud of you, dude. Proud
Yeah,
of you.
yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I was actually definitely going to mention you because you were one of the first people that had me on their show even before I had a podcast. When I was just talking about the fatherless daughters, you had me on the mail room. Definitely one of the like I said, one of the first, probably within the first five. people that actually have me on. So I definitely appreciate you. And I know we just did a live not too long ago together again. The third time that I've been on your show, and
Yeah.
we had you as a guest on the DLT over E. James podcast. So I definitely appreciate your support from the very beginning of my journey. And I just want to say thank you also for being a part of it. I won't keep you because I know you're driving, so I don't want to hold you.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate you and look forward to meeting in person. Hopefully, sometime soon. I'm definitely trying to get out to Atlanta, but hopefully I get out there sometime soon. And so I definitely appreciate you, Coach, and the mailroom. Make sure you guys check out the mailroom messages from him. I'm telling you, it's awesome. That's why I've been on there 3 times already, looking for my fourth
Yeah.
time to be on there.
You're always that guest host to come back. You always have a room. And again, I appreciate you and thank you. And you have our support. So go do what you do. I'm going to tune in, but I'm going to log on out. But I see you, and congratulations again. So y'all make sure y'all are not subscribed. Y'all better go subscribe to him right now.
All right, Coach. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Yes. Thank you, guys. I think we have one more person that's hanging out. My other sister is hanging out, so I'm gonna bring her in for a quick second. Angel, what's going on? Yes, you.
Hey, EJ.
What's happening? What's happening?
Hey, I just wanted to come on to tell you that I am so proud of you, bro. Because I'm not a person who could do the speaking in front of people and the podcast and all of that. I'm so proud of what you've done. I'm proud of everything you're doing. I am so proud of your 100th episode. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. Congratulations on all of your endeavors. Good luck. I just want to say I am so proud of you. I am so proud. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay,
That's
I
it.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna take you off the screen so you so you
Thank
don't
you.
have to rip out talking to people about. But I appreciate you too. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, guys. Again, thank you guys. Those who have tuned in, those who have stopped by. Thank you guys for just for being here and being in. So I just want to talk about a little bit more about my journey, right? So as my journey started, before I even became a podcaster myself, I was on Instagram. And for those of you that know my story, know that I started off talking. One of the things I started off doing on Instagram was talking about fatherless daughters with my account known as the Friends of Fatherless Daughters. And I was talking about fatherless daughters, and I was asked to be, I was contacted to be on a podcast, to be a guest on a podcast. So one of the things I want to do, I want to mention definitely the top 5 podcasts, or should I say the first 5 podcasts that I had an opportunity to be a part of. The very first podcast was a podcast called Vanity Talk Show. The second one I think was Porch Time with Miss McKinney. I think she's one of the second ones that had me on. Also, the third one was the Family Dynamics. They had me on, and who else was the Mail Room? Of course, had me on. Coach Tashawn had me on, and she also has been a guest here on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And last but not least, the Dads on Purpose podcast. Dads on Purpose podcast was very important and instrumental in me being a podcaster, because when I was a guest on a Dads on Purpose podcast, shout out to Kevin and Josh, I had the opportunity to meet Josh in person, because as the way I'm do my podcast is not in person, is virtual. Their podcast was also virtual, and I had the chance to be on there as a guest, talking about the Friends of Fatherless Daughters. Make sure that you guys go check that out too, the Dads on Purpose podcast. But I had an opportunity to go to Texas, and when I went to Texas, I reached out to Josh who was one of the hosts of the Dads on Purpose podcast, and talked to him, let him know I was in town, let's just get together. And so we were able to get together for a quick lunch. And in the midst of that, we had a conversation, and he said, I think you should have your own podcast. And so I was like, well, okay, cool. I'll think about it and figure it out. And so that kind of was the beginning of the journey, because I sat down and I started thinking about what was it, if I was to have a podcast, what would be the messaging that I want to get across? What would be the things that I would like to say for for my listeners? How can I pour into people? Because I didn't want to be one of these podcasts that comes on, and not saying there's anything wrong with it, because everybody has their choice to, to do whatever that is that they want to do, and how they express themselves on their podcast. But for me, myself, I didn't want to be a political podcast. I didn't want to be a podcast about jokes and necessarily entertainment or anything like that. But I wanted to do something that would actually mean something to people, that I can leave impression on people, to help them to get through something that they are dealing with, to help them through any situation that they have, whether, in the space of healing, which is my main focus, but not just healing, but success also, and just overcoming and motivation as a whole. That's what I wanted to get across. That's what I wanted to bring to this space. And so I had to sit down and think about that. Like, what did I want to do? And so I thought about it, and I kind of figured out what it was that I wanted to do, what I wanted to bring to the world. Again, is a conversation about healing, and not just healing in one space, but healing in every area of our life, somewhere that we have some pain. What can we do to bring some healing to that space? And I always say, I haven't been through everything. Neither do I want to go through everything. But for the things that I haven't been through, I would like to bring on people who have been through some things, and then they can talk about how we heal and overcome those experiences. And so that was the beginning of it, when I started to think about those things again. Shout out to the family dynamics and the mail room, definitely the mail room, and definitely a shout out to Dads on Purpose podcast, and Josh for even giving me that push to be on it. And not only did he give me a push, but he was also one of my first guests. And so I wanted to also take the time to shout out to the very first guest that I had on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. My very first guest was a young lady by the name of Yana. I don't even want to mess up her last name. I think it's Hada. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a German last name, so forgive me if I mess it up. But I want to shout out to Yana, because she was my very first guest on the podcast when I started it. And I wanted to have her as the first guest, because not only was she my first guest on the podcast, but even before, like I said, before I started the podcast, Yana reached out to me because Yana is a dad coach who helps fathers in the reconnection with their children. And guys know, like I said, I'm definitely a advocate for fatherless daughters, and Yana is a fatherless daughter. But our paths are just like opposites. So I'm a father who talks to fatherless daughters, and she's a fatherless daughter who helps with fathers with reconnection with their children. So Yana had reached out to me through Instagram, and we have did a couple of lives together on Instagram, talking about fatherhood, talking about fatherless daughters, talking about the reconnection with the father and his children, not just the daughters, but the children also. And so when I decided to do the podcast, and I wanted to say, okay, who could I have as my very first guest? My very first guest was Yana, and I'm glad not only was she the very first guest of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but she's also the very first female guest on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, which is our partner podcast that we started on Father's Day. So when you listen to this, I'm sure that that is up. I don't know if her episode may not be out yet, but the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is up and running. And Yana was also not only the first guest on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but she was the first female guest on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, because I also, in the same vein of me wanting to make sure that I bring something to the space that is positive, right? And informative. I wanted to do the same thing with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. As an advocate for fatherless daughters, I wanted to, with that podcast, talk to fathers about their relationship with their daughters, and also talk to daughters about their relationship with their fathers, to combat the narrative of the deadbeat dad, of the fathers leaving their daughters, because there are positive, strong fathers that are still here, that are building great relationships with all of their children, but especially with their daughters. And so I wanted to highlight that on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. And I wanted to have Yana again as one of my first guests on that podcast. She's the first female guest because she deals with fathers reconnecting with their children after, maybe it was for whatever reason they were away, maybe due to some parental alienation and things of that nature. But once the father comes back into the life of his daughter and the life of his children, how does he go about that process? And so I had Yana come in as the first guest again of the Deal to Heal podcast, and also the first guest of the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. My second guest on the Deal to Heal podcast was Leonard Webb. And so let me run them down right quick. So I want to shout out to my very first four guests that was guests on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. My first guest was Yana Herde. Forgive me, Yana, if I messed your name up. I love you. my second guest was Leonard Webb. Leonard is a coach and a speaker who speaks about the school to prison pipeline. I think that's how we say it, and how that there's a connection with the things that go on in the school that kind of leads, if not corrected, kind of leads our kids down that road that could possibly end them up in jail. So let me say it again, because I want to get to do the list first. So my list of my first couple guests was Yana was my very first guest. Leonard Webb was my second guest. Bernadette Jackson, who was also, I was on her podcast. She also has a podcast, and she talks about fatherless daughters. I believe she's a coach for fatherless daughters, who has a podcast as well, and had me as a guest. And I was definitely grateful to be able to reach out to her. And then last but not least, I talked about a little bit before, was Josh Ashford. Josh from the Dads on Purpose podcast had me on as a guest in the very beginning. And so those were my first guests. I definitely wanted to reach out to the people who had me on as a guest to be one of my first guests. And so those were my first guests for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And I'm very happy that we did that, because that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my journey into podcasting. I didn't know anything when I first started. And those people, the podcast that had me on as a guest, I was able to come on and do their podcast. Definitely honored for the opportunity. But then also when I started my own podcast, to be able to reach out to some of them and have them as guests on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And just really happy and elated to be in this space of 100 episodes, because if you're not familiar with the podcast, arena, should I say, there's a saying that says most podcasts don't make it past episode 6, right? So most podcasts don't make it past episode 6. Shout out to David Shands, who is the podcast king and my mentor, who I learned podcasting from. Definitely reached out to him to join his community. And I did, he had a challenge called the Start Your Podcast Challenge. And I started that challenge. I actually did it twice. The first time I did it for the information. The second time I did it because I just wanted to be in the community of like-minded people who were starting their journey as podcasters. But like I said before, with the stigma, or maybe it's not a stigma, that most podcasts don't make it past episode 6. A lot of people that started with me on that journey of podcasting, a lot of them are not still podcasting. A lot of them, some of them didn't make it past episode 6. Some of them did, but some of them are not podcasting now. And so just knowing that and being able to see those who are still on the journey with me, who I'm still in contact with, even with my podcast group that I have, where we all kind of stick together and encourage each other, and have advice and get advice from one another. Even in that group itself, there's been a lot of people that started with us, that are no longer a part of that group because they stopped podcasting. And so the fact that we're here at the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and we are celebrating 100 episodes, it definitely is a great accomplishment. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone who has took this journey with me. And so here's the deal. Another thing I want to talk about real quick. I'll give you my top 3 tips for new podcasters or people that want to start the podcast. First of all, one tip, which is not necessarily even a tip, make sure you go to ebooksbyejames.com, ebooksbyejames.com, and get your copy of Start Your Podcast Now in Only 3 Simple Steps, which is my ebook, which teaches you how to start your own podcast. So definitely want you guys to start there with that information. So I will give you my top 3 points, top 3 tips of podcasting from my own personal podcasting journey. Okay, so for all of you guys who thinking about podcasting, you want to be a podcaster, who's even thought about it, like, you know what, I think it's something that I can do. You definitely can do it. You definitely can do it. You have to remain consistent with it. Make sure that you show up. If you're releasing every week, make sure you show up every week for your guests. If you're doing it every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever your schedule is, you get to decide that. But whatever the schedule you decide, make sure that you are consistent. Make sure that you're consistent even with that. So that being said, my first tip that I will have for you is to get a scheduling app. Right? Get a scheduling app. I have a scheduling app that I use to schedule my recordings because I always pre-record. So to schedule my recordings with my guests, make sure you guys do that. When I first started, I was calling everybody, and trying to work around everybody's schedule. Hey, would you mind being a guest on the podcast? Yes, you would. Okay, let's get together. What day would you want to do? What's your best time? And all of that. Listen, that is such a headache. Don't even put yourself through that. Get you a scheduling app and have you a set time for the day and time that you record. So I record on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m., right? At 7 p.m. Central Time, which is the time zone where I'm at here in Chicago. So that's the time that I schedule. So it's very important. Make sure, just set your time. So those people who want to be a guest, who want to be on the show, they will, be able to pick what day works best for them with the time that you have available. Because you just can't just be doing it, trying to work around everyone's schedule, because that's just going to throw your schedule off. And I did it the first, I think it's the whole first season, calling people, working around different people's schedule, recording on odd days like Sundays and early Saturday mornings and things like that. It's like, you know what, that's not working. So set your schedule, get you a scheduling app. Set your schedule for the day and times that you are able to record, and then send that out to the people who are scheduling to be a guest, and let them choose what day works for them. And I know every once in a while you will be able to, communicate with them and say, hey, if this time that work for you, let's do something together. But for the majority, get you a link, get you an app so that everybody has the same time. Because if you're trying to work around everyone's schedule, again, that just gonna run you crazy. So that would be the number one thing. That's the number one tip. The second tip I will say is make you a guest request form. A guest request form. I just made one on Google real quick, but you could do it. Have you some of you may be more technical savvy than I am. So make you a guest request form. In your guest request form, that form is to first of all inform your guests on what your show is all about, and the topics or the overall mission of your show, of your podcast. And then more importantly is to gain information from them, right, about themselves. Okay, who are you? What do you do? What is the messaging that you're trying to send? Do you have any products that you want to promote? All of those things. So you get all of that information up front, their social media handles, their email address, their phone numbers, so that you guys can be able to contact, converse in a good way to make things run more smoothly. So you definitely want to have a guest request form. And that leads me to my third tip. My third tip is ask your guests for a guest, right? Ask your guests for a guest. One of the things that we know in podcasting, when you're doing a show that you have guests on, is sometimes it can be hard to find guests and find new guests, a new interesting guest. So when you find a good guest, ask your guests for more guests. So on my guest request form, that's one of the questions that I have. One of the last questions, like, hey, thank you for being a guest on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Do you know of 3 people who you think will also make a great guest for the podcast? And generally, I get 1, 2, or even 3 suggestions or recommendations from my current guests for who also will be a good guest for future podcasts. So those are my top 3 points. Those are my top 3 tips. Get you a scheduling app, right? To schedule, get you a guest guest request form, create you a guest request form, and then thirdly, ask your guests for a guest so you don't run out of quality guests. You want to make sure you have quality guests, so ask your guests for a guest. Lastly, that I want to do before we leave, because I'm not going to keep you too long. Just want to say thank you guys for tuning in, but for those who want to build start your own podcast, I want to leave you with development um, 3 development tips for your podcast. And when you're starting your podcast, 3 development tips. The number one thing that you need to consider when getting ready to start your own podcast is, what will your podcast be about? Would it be about sports? Would it be about entertainment? Figure out what is it that your podcast will be about. Right. So that's the number one thing. And for example, the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is about healing, it's about fulfillment, it's about success. Right. So those are the things that that our podcast is about. Right. So the next thing, what is the message, the messaging, or the belief that your podcast believes in? Right. What do you believe? So our belief here at the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. That is our belief. That is one of our motivating factors that because we believe that we want to add to that. And lastly, which be the mission of your podcast. What is your mission of your podcast? So I talked about our belief is that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And because we believe that everyone can, our mission, the mission of our podcast, is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, to heal from their pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So that is the mission of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So, man, I'm not going to hold you guys no more, but just want to say thank you, guys. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. Thank you for everyone that's been following my journey from the very beginning, especially those of you who tapped in with Earnest James when I was just the Friends of Fatherless Daughters on everyone else's podcast. But now I'm here, still the Friends of Fatherless Daughters, but I'm Earnest James, and I'm the host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, as well as the host of the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So thank you guys who been following me on this journey, who's been a part of it, and thank you for the new guys, the new people that's just now turning on, that just now finding out about me and newly introduced to me with this podcast. Hello, right? And welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So thank you guys so very much. Before we get out of here, one thing I want to let you guys know, make sure that you're checking us out on our website, the dealhealfulfill.org. That's dealhealfulfill.org, which is our overall company website. You find more information about me, about the podcast, about everything that I have going on, about hiring me as a speaker to come to your church, organization, or school to speak to your audiences there. I definitely am a speaker, we'd love to do that. Also, make sure you are guys go to ebooksbyejames.com. That's ebooksbyejames.com. Number one, to get your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook, but also in that same on that same website, you will find the links to my other ebooks that I have that's available. The core four, which is the core four values that every daughter should get from her father. Forgiving Me, which is the 4 steps to self forgiveness, and From Males to Men, which is the 3 steps into manhood. That's a ebook for young men. So yeah, go to ebooksbyejames.com. That's ebooksbyejames.com to check out those ebooks, and make sure that you're also going to our major website, our main website, should I say, which is dealhealfulfill.org. And if you just go there, there also will be a link to the ebooksbyejames.com, as well as the Deal to Heal Tees, our inspirational t-shirt line. Let me slow down. That's Deal to Heal Tees, our inspirational t-shirt line. There also will be a link to that at dealhealfulfill.org. So make sure you guys are checking us out there. Also, I've been blessed to be a part of a organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do, we have free virtual workshops every quarter of the year, right? So you can go to forgivenessmission.com in order to register. So we talk about everything forgiveness. We talk about forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, what it means to forgive. What does forgiveness mean? What does that look like? We have all of those topics covered, having that discussion on forgivenessmission.com. And we do that 4 times out of the year, every quarter of the year. Basically, we have those there. It's free. So make sure you guys go and check it out. Free virtual workshop at forgivenessmission.com. Last but not least, I don't even think I announced it at the very beginning, but celebrating our 100th episode, you can win $100 from the podcast, right? So how do you win $100 from the podcast? By subscribing to our super subscriber contest. And the first thing you need to do in order to win is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and also to our podcast on Spotify or your podcast listening platforms. And after you've done those 3 things, you text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is random and it's ongoing, which means once you're in, you can always win, right? Once you're in, you can always win. You don't never have to re-up, to refresh it or anything like that. Once you're in, you're in. So definitely I want you guys to check out that to enter our super subscriber contest to see how you can win $100. You can be our next $100 winner. So that being said, again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been a part of this journey. Thank you for Coach Tashawn for logging in. Thank you for my sisters for logging in. And thank you for being a listener, for being a subscriber, and for following me on this journey as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So we got another guest. We got another guest just hopped on. I was just about to get out of here. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Evening.
Hey Sonia, how you doing?
Hey Earnest, how are you?
I am good. I was just about to get off of here. I'm glad I seen you.
I just want to jump in here. I just definitely had to be in the room with you tonight. I know this is your 100th episode, so we are so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Definitely my next level speakers community. All you guys have really been inspirational and instrumental. And most of you guys, not most, but some of you guys, some of our next level speakers have been guests on the Deal to E. James podcast. We have quite a few that's actually been guests on. So
awesome.
Thank you so very much for being a part of my journey as a speaker and as a podcaster. I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ernest. You are doing it. I mean, I am so proud to be associated and to witness all of the great things that you're doing in the community. Like, it's amazing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right. So, guys, I was just about to get off here. I'm gonna let you go, Sonia. Thank you so very much, guys. So, thank you guys again, who's been on, who's been following me with my journey. Definitely the next level speakers, who's definitely been a part of that community has been very inspirational to me. Chicago chapter in the house. But again, thank you guys so very much for everything that you've done, for following me, for supporting me on these 100 episodes. And so until next time, until next week, you guys be blessed. Thank you very much. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866 326 0730. That's 866 326 0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.